Having a script in cold calling is so important because we so often as salespeople just want to feel like, oh, I don't need to follow a script. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. And what happens is we go all over the place and we're so much less effective. Having that rock solid cold calling script is going to change the effectiveness of your calls 100 times over. Seriously, it's so important. Now, you may think of it more as a template or more as a structure, but either way, you want to have that cold calling script. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a cold calling script step by step. Check it out. Number one, don't make a cold call. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, you literally just said we're going to have a video about a cold calling script, and now you're saying don't make a cold call? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Don't make a cold call. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't be making prospecting calls, but your calls should be a part of a larger prospecting campaign. If you're just making a random cold call today, a random cold call another day, you're very likely to be unsuccessful. What you want to do is follow a prospecting campaign where calls might be a part of that process, but you're sending emails, you're making LinkedIn requests, you're sending packages, you're sending letters, you're leaving voicemails, and yes, you're making calls. But they all work together as part of a mapped out campaign. I have a ton of other videos of this, but do not just be making a straight cold call. It's going to be a waste of your efforts. Instead, make it part of a larger prospecting campaign. Number two, you must have a script. Whether you're making a straight cold call or a cold call as part of a prospecting campaign, we need to have a script. If we don't have a script, we are going to get ourselves into so much trouble. Now, I've made thousands and thousands of calls over the course of my career, and I will tell you that every single time I'm following a script. Now, that doesn't mean that it's just the whole thing is scripted out. There are some parts where there's personalization, but I know exactly what that script sounds like, what the questions are going to be, what those points of personalization are going to look like. So that way, when I actually get the prospect on the phone, I'm so much stronger because I know exactly what I'm going to say. And if they say something that I didn't expect, I'm not going to be thrown off because I've got a contingency for that as well. Having that whole call scripted out is going to make us so much stronger. Quite frankly, having our entire sales process scripted out is going to make us so much stronger, but especially when it comes to making calls. Number three, pattern interrupt constantly. Constantly. Now, I want you to be constantly breaking the pattern of the prospect. You don't want to be doing things that they expect. As soon as you're doing what they expect, they go into their consistent buying pattern, which is probably going to include getting you off the phone. You've got to be breaking that pattern. You've got to be doing things that they don't expect. You've got to be saying things that they're not expecting you to say and asking questions that they're not expecting you to ask. So constantly be breaking the pattern with them, even at the beginning of the call. Instead of saying, hey, how are you today? Instead say, hey, George, how have you been? And now they're thinking, wait, do I know this person? Right? The data shows that just simply using that phrase of how have you been has a 6 times increase in the likelihood of actually setting the appointment. Little change, pattern interrupt. Use your pattern interrupts constantly. Number 4, quick opening. You want to have a very short opening. This is where a lot of salespeople get caught up in this first 20 or so seconds of the call. This is the most important part of your call, and if it's not short and to the point, and if it's redundant and repeating things over and over again, the call is going to be over before you know it. We need to be quick and concise, which is why scripting it out is so helpful, because you can cut out all the junk language. You can just get straight to the point. So be very short in your opening before you start to engage them in the conversation. Number 5, show you did your homework. There is nothing more frustrating to a prospect than just getting a boilerplate cold call where it shows without question that the salesperson has no idea who the prospect is. Show you did your homework. Use tools like LinkedIn Navigator and Google Research to know things about the prospect. If you're calling on a VP of sales, know how many people are in the sales department. Know how many people work at the company in general. Know where the VP of sales is located. Know where they went to college. Know some really basic things. And these are all little points that you can get just by using LinkedIn Navigator to get that insight. You can even, if you don't want to pay for LinkedIn Navigator, you can at least use their LinkedIn profile to get a lot of really valuable information to show you did your homework. Number 6, note the common challenges. Common challenges are going to be so key in really engaging them. So you've opened up the call, you've shown you've done a little bit of homework, you know about their organization. Now it's time to mention some of the common challenges that you see. George, typically with companies like yours, I'm seeing a lot of clients that are dealing with this, and this. The 3 challenges. Note those common challenges and then bring them into the conversation. Using those challenges is going to help you focus on them and what they care about as opposed to your product or service, which, by the way, they don't care about. Note those common challenges. Number 7, engage them. This is really one of the places where so many salespeople just miss the boat entirely. They just get nervous or they just think they're on a roll, so they keep on talking. And if you just keep on talking, eventually the prospect is going to either tune out and start typing or doing something else, or they're going to try to get off the phone with you. You've got to engage them in a conversation. And the only way you can engage them in a conversation is with a question. And so what you want to do is typically use those common challenges to rope them into that conversation. So it might sound something like, Lauren, typically clients like yourself, I'm hearing, are dealing with challenge A, challenge B, and challenge C. Do any of those issues ring true to you? And now you're bringing them into the conversation, engaging that person in that conversation. And once they get talking, now you're in a two-way dialogue as opposed to this monologue where you're just throwing up all over them. Get them into the conversation by engaging them. Number 8, recommend a clear next step. Clear next steps are everything when it comes to your cold call script. You need to have a clear next step coming out of that call. It can't be some wishy-washy crap where you're just going to follow up in a couple of weeks or, hey, maybe we could get together sometime. I'll call you back later. It's got to be a clear next step and you want to recommend it. So once you've determined that the conversation has gone well, it should sound something like this. George, can I make a recommendation? Why don't we schedule a meeting where I'll come to your office and we'll talk further in this. I can share with you some best practices. Typically, a meeting like this would take about 45 minutes. Would that make some sense? And now they say, sure. Or maybe they don't say yes, but you want to have a clear next step coming out of that call. Do not allow there to be some wishy-washy kind of soft next step. Number 9, send a calendar invite. This is so tactical and basic, but it's so important that every single call that has a positive outcome, there is a calendar invite coming from you to them. And they are going to then accept, of course, that calendar invite. So when you schedule that next step, then say, you know what, George, I'm going to be sending you a calendar invite. You should get it in the next few minutes with all of the details for the meeting. And just want to make sure you look out for it. Does that sound good? And they say, sure. And then you send that calendar invite. They accept it. Now you are in their calendar. They are on your calendar. Calendar invites are so key to making sure that you are sustaining that clear next step. Because once you're in their calendar, they're so much less likely to just bail on the meeting overall. So there is how to build a cold calling script step by step. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free training on the data-driven approach to help you crush your sales goals. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more sales at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value out of this video, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking my face right here to get access to a new video just like this one each week.